And guys, good to see you guys. We have a little time to stress some of the big issues that as we start to prepare to teach professionally today. So, as the nice introduction, since this is the first time all the participants get to see us, what were the biggest mistakes you've ever made in online teaching? Let's start with that one.
There you
A
go.
nice,
That's a nice
easy, fun
introduction.
question. Does that work?
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. All
And
right.
notice how I
So,
asked you, so I don't have to tell my mistakes. So,
all right. So I'll officially start with that. And the short answer is I was not ready to manage the amount of communication it takes to effectively hold and develop and grow a class in an online setting because I just wasn't ready to have to answer emails as frequently as I did or be available as
yeah,
frequently as I was or needed to be.
yeah,
I would echo what Tory says, and that was an issue for me early on. My first online teaching job were these pre-made courses that they were created by a company that creates online courses. And that was a little bit awkward. And I tried to communicate a lot. I actually kept a spreadsheet of um, all the students in the class and if I had contacted them each week and things like that, just to make sure that I wasn't leaving anybody behind. And so I had a lot of communication, but a bigger problem was that I didn't start the course off by building social presence, essentially. So we didn't have any
hmm
kind of getting to know you types of exercises because of the way the course was made. And because it was my first time, I didn't want to modify that course. I didn't want to mess with it
yeah.
or change it because I thought that I would get in trouble. So I was just kind of like, okay, here we're starting and I'm emailing you every week. But I didn't build in the friendly conversations at the start. And because of that, my emails later on, I don't think were nearly as meaningful for the students.
Yeah, that's interesting. My mistake when I first began was actually the opposite of yours. I went in thinking I had to create it all. So this was 1997. So before some of the participants in this program were born, I think. I got a grant to teach an online course. And I didn't know what it was even. I just needed money. So I said I could do it and got the grant. And and then I sort of had this feeling like I had to make everything myself. And so this was before YouTube, so that wasn't an easy resource. But I've seen that mistake with a lot of the teachers, even in the last 3 or 4 months, when they have to go online. They're trying to make these amazing videos themselves, and they'll spend 3 hours making a PowerPoint that gives 10 minutes worth of information. And I don't know, that was my mistake. I wanted to create the whole world and create the whole content of the course and everything just through just for my class. So,
I think that
so
that steps on something very, very important. And I think it kind of leads into the next question of professionalism. What looks professional?
yeah,
And I think that there are some real interesting observations to be made at least in the United States about if you've watched any of the talk shows where they're normally in a studio audience and then suddenly they're in their living room. And there is almost an acceptable step down when
that's
it's like a trade-off of
yeah,
quantity and quality. So if you have a very narrow amount or very selected amount of material or exposure, it has to be very high product value. But when you have a lot of exposure and a lot of content, I think that the production value, how fancy it has to look, is acceptable at a little lower level of production fanciness.
yeah. That kind of ties in with Jonathan's comment too about establishing social presence. Like the from what you said, Jonathan, when you began, again, you didn't really invest in the personal communication at the beginning, and then when you have to do it at the end, it's not as meaningful. But those like little short videos, quick emails and messages, responses on the first posts, those things really pay off in the end, it seems.
I agree. Well, and what you were saying also hits on yet another thing in that you were saying it was an issue that you were trying to create everything. And nowadays, with so many online resources, if people understand that you can use all those YouTube videos, those Khan Academy videos, and I mean, there's so much online that can teach the lesson for you. And you're more of a person to assist in that, to facilitate it. So you don't have to make the video or write the lesson if there's already a good free resource for that.
I think that's a great way to start, because putting together a distance learning course is going to require a lot of additional media. And I certainly think that you've touched on an important thing where you don't feel like you have to build it all yourself. You may evolve to that, to where you've built your own things and you've sort of made your own project and your own thing. But I think starting in the beginning, finding other people's sources and then incorporating them in is definitely a time saver and makes for a better course in the long run.
You know, that leads me to something that came up in actually a lot of the application papers for this program. People were talking about how they wanted to learn to make their own videos. They wanted to create their own courses online. And that's great. But I think we're all saying that's not the key to being a professional teacher online. It's not like you don't have to write your own textbook to teach your class face-to-face. You don't have to create your own 100% of your own materials online. So what would you guys say are the marks of a professional online teacher? Like what comes to mind if you were making a rubric, or if you looked at a class website and said, this is made by a pro, this is made by someone who just found out yesterday they had to go online. What types of things would you look for?
I think. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, Jonathan. Story. I talked first last time, man. You go now.
Well, I think a lot of it is that things are, when it's done by a professional, things tend to be, at least what I notice, is they're very focused, and there's not a lot of extra stuff on the side. It's focused very specifically on the objectives for that course or for that lesson. And I think and I was having this issue when I was trying to help my local teachers transition to online, is they think they need to have every single component from their classroom experience in the online experience, down to like spelling tests and things like that even, or just a lot of stuff that it just might not work as well online. And so to reevaluate your activities and make sure that every activity that you do is focused on those standards or those objectives. And I think that being able to kind of maintain that focus and keep things from getting cluttered, because if you have fewer, more focused assignments, it works better online because things tend to take longer.
That's something I noticed right away too. And actually this might be related to my big mistake when I started teaching, but I really didn't estimate how long it takes people to do online assignments. Like, as though this is going off topic a little bit, but back when the three of us were starting to take courses together, we'd have our professors would put up these discussion forums, and there was like this competition between us to see who could get the most comments, who could get the most likes, who could be quoted the most. And I'm probably just confessing my own sins here. I'm sure you guys didn't do that, but I was all over.
Oh no, I did. I sat out and thought about what quippy, weird association. And do you know how much time I spent trying to work in all of that Marvel association stuff in the leadership class? Hours.
Like every post you had quotes from Marvel characters. It was amazing. And then here I am saying, man, I've only watched 3 of the Avengers movies. I'm totally lost. So I had to watch movies as my homework. So, my family life better, but it didn't. Yeah. Anyway, it just takes more time, because if we're doing constructivist methods and exploratory learning and things, and if as teachers we ask really good questions and give students resources to figure it out and let them collaborate in their experience, it takes a lot more time. than just sitting in a classroom for 50 minutes or 55 minutes, writing down whatever the teacher says. So,
and that makes me think of something else, and it's not necessarily, it's all kind of off topic. But I was just thinking right now how strange it is that I've not met either of you two.
yes.
But because we've taken courses together and we've communicated so much through forums and everything, that I feel like I know you pretty well. You're my classmates, colleagues, part of my cohort, things like that. And that I started posting on forums, a very long time ago. And so that was a familiar, the online discussion board is a very familiar form of communication to me. And I've always been a bit of a joker on discussion boards as well. And so that's just the way I was used to communicating asynchronously online. And I think that a lot of older teachers might be a little bit more worried because they're less familiar with those forms of communication, and they may not understand the types of relationships that people can build online without even having met each other in person, and that for some people that's totally normal.
Yeah,
that is a weird thing to think about. That's a very 21st century social modality that has and outside of like letter correspondences never existed, like ever.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is.
I have made many real life friends that started just as people that post on the same discussion board that I do. And then you end up meeting in person and it's like you're old friends. So it really is possible to build those relationships without being in the same place at the same time.
I think you brought up a real interesting point. And you mentioned how you talk in the forums and that it was a familiar platform or medium for you. And I wonder if, because a lot of the people that I saw who posted on the Flipgrid, it was really interesting to read their presence in front of the camera, and it's very formal and very cordial and polite. But I think that that familiarity, that social tone, that it's okay to be in more to have a sense of informality in the forums and when communicating, because it sort of breeds that social bond that kind of got us in that same sort of situation.
Yep. And I thinking back to our own discussions, there were some people in our cohort who always would post so formally and so precisely that you didn't really want to comment on them, or at least I didn't, because I felt like if I did, I'd have to have 15 footnotes, and I'd be tearing down someone's world if I said something negative. Where, like with you guys, you both posted pretty informally and casually, and so I could say, "Hey, have you thought about this?" And no, you wouldn't be personally offended. And sometimes with people who went too formal, I kind of backed off because I didn't want to attack their world, but sometimes I didn't totally agree with their
the
point.
formality sort of halts the willingness to engage, and maybe that's just a cultural thing. Maybe that's just us, but I think that there's an emotional response system that might be universal, and maybe opening up to that practice might be advantageous. Allowing yourself to be a little bit more open and casual, smile more on camera. I noticed that some of the folks on the Flipgrid, I personally felt more, connected to them when they smiled on their Flipgrid. They communicated like that.
But to add to what Randal was saying about when somebody posts very formally, I agree that it's not as easy to engage, but when I'm thinking about that person's intent with the post, they are posting because they're not as concerned with building their relationship with their classmates, but that post acts as a good piece of work for assessment. And that while discussing things online is great for building relationships, it can still be used as a way of assessing learning. So it kind of depends on the person.
Yeah, that's true. Where's the balance? I think that's maybe a personal Who sets that tone? Should it be the instructor that sets the tone?
Yeah, and this is that's a really good question for this context, especially because um, for people in the cohort, Jonathan and Tory haven't been to Central Asia. I've lived here for a while, and I'm still learning the culture. But Central Asians tend to be very formal by American standards. Like they have different pronouns that you use based on someone's age, based on their status. So every interaction, like the word "you" is different, but depending on your relationship and the formality. And just a little quick anecdote: when I first moved to Uzbekistan, the cell phone usage was free if it was less than 5 seconds. So you'd call someone free for under 5 seconds. The problem was Uzbek greetings take about 3 or 4 minutes. So we'd constantly hear people say, pick up the phone and say, Assalamu alaikum, and hang up. We believe in Islam, and hang up. And,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so for this type of conversation, we probably need to go informal faster.
Probably.
And smile more. Central Asians don't usually smile in pictures. They're trying to train.
My wife
like
was
yeah.
interesting about that because she grew up in Kazakhstan. I mean, when it was the Soviet Union, and I was looking through her family pictures because I went to Kazakhstan, I don't know, 4 years ago, and I was looking through pictures. I'm like, why are no one smiling?
Yeah.
What is the deal here? You're the most miserable people on the planet. No, she's like, we just didn't. It was just, it's not like we weren't happy. It's just we didn't smile in pictures. It's just a formal thing.
Yeah, my son's second grade school picture in his black uniform with white shirt looks like he's a 30-year-old mobster. He's a little bit overweight. He just well, guys,
if we're trying to get back on track, sorry, I'm stepping on your toes here, Randall, but back to our official questions, and there are the C and D questions are very similar of a professional online teacher and the traits and skills of a professional online teacher. And I'll just throw it out there. I mean, other than designing your course to be focused, it's really being organized and communicating a lot. I think those are like the key things, and I'm sure you guys agree with that and have more to add.
I don't know if I have more to add. That's right on track. Organization, clear communication. What else would you put in, Tory?
Organization, communication, having an idea of where you're going. Teach the online course based upon where you need to end up, and before you launch the course, kind of know what you want out of it, and so your organization has a goal, where you're going to get to.
Backwards design, and we'll definitely talk about that when we talk about instructional design as well.
Yeah, because in a normal face-to-face, you can kind of, students are required to talk to you every day, type thing. Here, if someone doesn't log in, you can't necessarily find them. So we have to build that goal really strongly every lesson almost, and say, here's the product we're working toward.
And just as a bit of encouragement, if people do get discouraged when there's that one or two students that just don't seem to ever engage, that's kind of normal, actually. Yeah. In an online course, in like kind of a when you're dealing with teenagers who procrastinate and put things off to the last minute, I mean, there will always be a couple of students that you can try to contact them any way you want. And there's always going to be a couple that you cannot reach.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged. That's just normal.
Yeah. And actually, unfortunately, it's normal in a face-to-face class too, except we can kind of convince ourselves that we're reaching them. But in a face-to-face class too, probably 10% of my students don't really like me and don't learn that much from me. So
I think that's fair for everybody. I mean, none of us are 100% integratable, but I think the effort to reach out is important, and you put some effort into that, and at least you can say that you did. That.
And sometimes that effort will make the difference. So
true. Yeah.
You got to do it.
Yeah. You got to try.
Good. Well, guys, thanks for your comments on this. Do you have any other last thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah,
for this video.
don't be afraid to try. If you're not sure, I think for everyone on the planet right now, and some people have more experience than others, but don't be afraid to try something that you want to try. You're like, I think this is a good idea. Let's try it. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If it isn't, well, you try something different. But don't be afraid to fail, because we all have.
Yeah, I would add to that. I agree with everything Tory says, and just to reiterate what we said earlier, in that don't be afraid to ask for materials or to use good online materials, or just to not beat yourself up, to not get discouraged, because you don't have to make the entire course yourself.
Yeah.
You might not be able to reach every single student. We just do our best, and that will reach most students.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guys, I could say what you said in different words, but yeah, I think you hit it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, thanks. And for all the participants, we'll try and do a video like this almost every week, just so you can see how we're talking about things and thinking about it. And I really recommend this method if you have other teachers in your school who are teaching online. Let your students see how you think like this. It's part of training them to address the problems. So we'll look forward to seeing you in the online discussions. And if you have comments or questions on this video, please post them in the forum here. We're looking forward to your feedback. So, and Tory and John, thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice talking to you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Talk to you later.
Bye.